Hello and welcome to day 6, the last day of this course. Today we will learn how to thrive with social anxiety. And the 3 key points of this episode are to understand social anxiety and how it affects you so you can overcome it. The second one is to discover how social anxiety gets stored in your body and train your body with techniques to feel safe. And the third one is to socialize, enjoy parties and make friends and connections without social anxiety holding you back. Alright, so let's get to grips with social anxiety. Do you feel nervous before going to a friend's party? Are you sleepless the night before an important meeting or interview? If so, you are probably suffering from an extremely common form of anxiety that affects as many as 1 in 3 young adults, social anxiety. It might feel so common that there's no escaping it, like a bad cold. But in fact, you can train yourself to live and thrive with social anxiety. So, what is social anxiety? Social anxiety is when people fear social situations, usually because of a perceived threat that you will be judged by others. Social anxiety might involve overthinking, feeling isolated, trouble sleeping, stuttering, or even increased sweating. And it comes in many forms. For some, it's a fear of public speaking. For others, it's driving on a busy road or attending social occasions. Some feel social anxiety more physically, while others feel it more mentally. So what is the difference between mental and physical anxiety? Mental anxiety is how your brain reacts to a perceived threat, like feeling on edge before giving an important presentation. And physical anxiety can feel like tension in the belly, a fast heartbeat, shallow breathing, cold sweats, or trembling. And it's often a strong reaction which doesn't seem to fit the circumstances. Understanding anxiety and why it affects you helps you to find ways to cope with and even overcome social anxiety. And when you do so, you will lead a less stressful life with more fulfilling relationships. And in this episode, you will gain tools to help you in this endeavor. So let's start with mental anxiety, and I'm going to give you some tips to get you out of your head, alright? Mental anxiety is the way that your brain responds to a perceived threat, like feeling nervous before a party. Sometimes you will feel mental anxiety just from imagining things that could go wrong. What if I get to the party and don't know anyone? What if I say something stupid? Your brain is actually overcompensating for your nerves. The reason nervous thoughts spin out of control and into mental anxiety is linked to our fight or flight instinct. Human brains evolved with a fight or flight response to survive. That's what we talked about in the first episode. But in a modern context, and especially in settings where social anxiety arises, the fight or flight instinct is not useful. It makes us think that we are in danger when we are not. And the trick is to find new ways to deal with social anxiety that don't tap into that fearful, instinctive response. I'm going to give you a useful method. We're going to test out failure. And it might seem scary, but sometimes doing the exact thing that you're anxious about helps your brain see that actually, it's no big deal if it happens. You will immediately feel better when making a mistake doesn't end in catastrophe. And it means that next time, you will feel less anxious about making this mistake. Alright, nervous that you'll come off stupid? Ask a deliberately obvious question in conversation to see how people respond. I invite you to ask your friend, and ask you to ask your family, or I invite you to ask one of your colleagues. Alright? More often than not, people will surprise you. They will be friendly or not even notice. And even when people react poorly, well, you won't die. This helps your brain realize that actually you weren't in real danger at all. So how can you cope with mental anxiety? Testing out failure is just one way to reroute your brain. So take it off the familiar tracks of social anxiety and in a new direction to feel freer, more confident, and more at ease in social situations. Now let's practice some more mental techniques for dealing with social anxiety. Number 1, observe your social anxiety. The first step to conquering something, get to know it. You might know you experience social anxiety, but it's important to recognize your exact symptoms and when they are likely to occur. So take a moment to reflect. When do you feel socially anxious? And how do you feel socially anxious? For example, are you more likely to be socially anxious in a work setting or at a party? Do you feel shaky and sick? Or do your thoughts race so fast that you feel unable to speak? Then, prepare for social anxiety. Once you know what makes you socially anxious, you can start practicing for that situation so that you have coping mechanisms the next time you deal with it. If you're anxious at parties, you could come up with a list of good questions for small talk with strangers. If you're anxious about work presentations, you could practice your public speaking skills. So think about your social anxieties and what can you do to prepare for them in advance. And lastly, take the focus off yourself. The problem with social anxiety is that it's something that crops us in group setting. But it's all about you. Remind yourself that you are just one person and everyone here has their own individual thoughts, anxieties, fears, hopes, stresses, and lives. And then you shift your attention out of your head and onto the people around you. So practice this right now by reframing some of your typical social anxious thoughts into ways that you could tune back in the group. For example, I'm too nervous to speak. I must look so shy and weird. And then you can reframe by, what Rebecca is actually saying is so interesting. I want to listen closely and hear more. A second example could be, I always stutter in work presentations. It's so embarrassing. That's something you can reframe by, Sami is new to the team. How can I make sure he understands the context of this project? Alright, so I believe you're ready. So keep these coping mechanisms close at hand for the next time that you feel social anxious. Be gentle with yourself and remember that it takes time to break patterns. Alright? If you tend to feel social anxiety more physically than mentally, well, no fear. In the next part of this episode, we're going to talk about more strategies for dealing with physical anxiety. You need to calm the body when you deal with physical anxiety. Your body actually amps up your anxiety, but it can also calm you down. And we've already talked about the fight or flight response. But just as you can change your mental patterns to soothe social anxiety, you can also change your physical patterns with your parasympathetic nervous system. It actually triggers the relaxation response, a state of calmness, of clarity, and safety. And do you know what's the easiest way to activate it? Well, let's do it together. Number 1, take a deep breath. Breathing tells your body that you are safe and that nothing dangerous is happening. And as a result, you will feel more relaxed, present, and capable of dealing with the circumstances. then you will connect with your senses. When your body is full of anxiety, a good tactic is to turn your physical attention back to the world around you. So take a moment when you're anxious to connect with each of your senses. What can you smell? What can you hear? And what can you see? And then once you've done that, you relax your muscles progressively. It means alternately flexing and relaxing different muscles. It centers relief and reaffirms that you are in control of your body. The idea is not to react to the physical anxiety and form a cognitive narrative about why you feel in danger. Instead, learn to recognize, acknowledge, and disengage from it. Alright? So let's try it out in the next exercise. You can use this exercise anytime that you feel anxious. You can recognize that anxiety by checking in with yourself. What are you feeling in your chest? What are you feeling in your belly? What are you feeling in your legs? And then you take 3 deep breaths to regain a physical sense of safety. So let's do a short exercise together and remember a specific moment you felt social anxiety in the past 2 months. So you choose a moment that was challenging but not overwhelming for you. Something that felt like a 6 out of 10 rather than a 10 out of 10 in intensity. So now that you have your specific moment, shift your attention to feelings that you experienced during that situation. What did you feel in that situation? I invite you to name 2 to 3 feelings. Then you tune in to the physical sensations of your body. What did you notice? For example, you can ask yourself, what do I perceive in my chest, belly, legs, or even face when I think about this moment? Where do I feel tightness, tension, or relaxation? So I invite you to name 2 to 3 bodily sensations that you can perceive. Try to not interpret these sensations, but rather stick to the sensory perception in your body. For example, instead of saying, I feel fear, you can say, I feel some tightness in my belly, or my heart beating in my chest. The most powerful tool to de-identify with the feeling and support calmness is your breathing. So you take 3 deep breaths. Alright, and now reflect again. How does your body feel? What has changed? Where do you feel more relaxation and calm now? Alright, so feel free to use this technique anytime you feel physical anxiety, even in the moment. So, congratulations! You have embarked on a transformative journey, exploring the complexities of anxiety and discovering powerful strategies to manage and overcome it. Throughout this course, you have gained valuable insights into understanding the root causes and symptoms of anxiety, differentiating between normal anxious moments and anxiety disorders, implementing immediate relief strategies during heightened anxiety, developing long-term methods to prevent and manage anxiety, and cultivating healthy habits that contribute to overall mental well-being. Remember, overcoming anxiety is a personal journey and progress takes time. What worked for me might not work for someone else or you. Be patient with yourself and celebrate each small victory along the way. The tools and techniques that you've learned here are designed to support you in your ongoing journey towards a calmer and more peaceful life. I would love to hear about your experience with this course. Your feedback is invaluable in inspiring others who are on similar paths. So please take a moment to leave a comment below, sharing which aspects of the course resonated with you the most. How has your understanding of anxiety changed? What strategies have you found most helpful in managing your anxiety? Any challenges that you faced during the course and how you overcame them? And how you plan to incorporate these learnings into your daily life. Your journey doesn't end here, so continue to practice the techniques, be kind to yourself, and remember that you have the strength to face your fears. Thank you for joining me on this transformative journey from fearful to fearless. I wish you continued growth, peace, and success in taming your anxious mind. Bye for now, and I hope to see you later.